We're going to go clockwise, and it should pop right on there. Beautiful. Make sure it's all the way down tight, and there you go. There's the other spring with the brush. And now, of course, this one is clean as well. I don't know if you can see it, but it's also clean. Okay, so now a little hair on there, a little cotton hair. Make sure you always check for that, because the Q-tips sometimes give off a little cotton. All right, so we're not going to put any lube on now. We'll lube it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the right spring and brush in the right side. Going to put the left spring and brush in the left side. And now we're going to do it the easy way, meaning instead of trying to take the brush plate and turn it over to put it on the motor, the springs and the brushes would just fall right out, and we'd really be in trouble, because we wouldn't know right from left, and there wouldn't be it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold it, brush plate by, I like to hold it by the tubes, and I just hold it. I got my finger against the wires so they just stay with me. I turn the motor over, line up the shaft of the motor, and push the plate down, push the brush plate, wait. Okay. Push the brush plate. You got to make sure that the springs go straight in. Sometimes they crook it. Okay, so now I got that. I got the two brushes on. There's two holes that have they hook into little tabs that are in the frame. Anyway, now it's perfectly in place, in the right place. And we're going to take our two screws from this brush plate, and we're going to immediately put them in, because that is what's going to hold it all together. I put the first one all the way down, finger tight. That holds the brush plate. Do the second one, a little tight to get in there, so I'll use this. Put the second screw in the brush plate. Again, we don't have to be Hercules. We're just going to come down all the way and then snug. It's like an eighth of a turn to snug it. Okay, so now I believe we already have a much smoother motor. Now we're going to go to the other side. Now we're going to the other side of the motor, with the gear side. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. On the gear side of the motor, we're going to take off two screws for this plate, for this brush plate. I'm sorry, not a brush plate, bearing plate. Okay, here's the two screws. We pull this up and off. Wow, is this clean? Damn, this is very clean. I am shocked. Oh, you know what's wrong with this engine? Man, somebody cleaned it. Forgot to grease it. There's no grease on these gears. There's like no grease at all on these gears on this side. Alright, this is a first. I've never seen this happen before. Ever. So how do you like that? Okay, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a Q-tip. I'm going to take off some cotton, because I want to get in this bearing hole right here. I want to clean it, even though it's pretty clean. So I want to be able to shove this through here. I didn't quite take off enough, but I'm getting enough in there. Okay. You can see it took the shape of the bearing. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so that's clean. We'll clean off the face, the inside face of the plate, just for the heck of it. Oh, we got it open. Because there's always some residue. And I'll show you in a second here. So I clean that. So that's what I'm getting out of there. That's what I got out of it, which is not much. Not much at all. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to clean the area that was underneath the plate. You know, copper bushings here, the copper stanchions. We'll clean the gear just for the heck of it. It's pretty clean as it is, but whatever. Okay, clean the plates. Just make it nice and clean. And you know, so that's what we got off of a clean plate, so to speak. Take this side, wipe it off, and leave it wet. Alright, it's all dried up because it's alcohol. Nice. Alright. Beautiful. Alright, we're not going to grease this at all yet. There's a reason for that. Well, you know what? We will. Just for the heck of it. I'm going to use the Label 106. Grease. Put a tiny bit. I'm going to put a tiny bit on the plate. And then I put the plate in. Not much, just a tiny bit. If you put too much, just take it off. Put that down on there. Okay. Use my magnetic screwdriver to get the screws out of the bin. Put it in place. Don't tighten it yet. Just bring it down. Don't tighten it at all until you get both of them on. The plate is seated correctly. A little bit of a turn, eighth of a turn, just what I call snugging. You don't want them falling apart. So now we have this side lubricated, cleaned and lubricated. You could already see how much smoother this thing is. Now normally I would take this off, but it's in such great shape. I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I turn this over and I'm going to show you how I clean behind here, even though this is in really good shape. I'm going to show you how I clean behind the wheels. This wheel's a little chipped. Kind of disappointing. A little chipped there. And it's chipped here too. Somebody dropped this thing. Somebody dropped this engine. I didn't notice that till just now, but it's chipping on that back wheel. On this wheel here and this wheel. That's unfortunate. You could see it. I hope it runs okay. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's see something. I know it's not greased. No, let me do this. I am going to put 1 drop of Label 07 on here. 1 drop. And then I'm going to, by hand, work it in a little bit. Because I don't want it to run dry. But I want to check it out. I don't think you could see it. I don't think you could see it. But let's see if we could fix the camera so you could at least see this thing. See what I'm doing here. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. Let's see what happens. That's on. What we have to do is power the track. No, we have to power the transformer and then the track. Okay, so we got a bad E unit. Bad meaning it needs to be cleaned and shiny. The engine does run. Yeah. Alright, we know the engine runs because we just saw it run. Alright, rather than hassle with it, I know the motor runs. Let me put this up. Okay. Okay, good. You may not be able to see my face, but that's okay. You're better off not seeing my face. Anyway, so we have an E unit that is obviously needing some work because it doesn't cycle, and we are going to put grease on there. So before I do that, I'm going to show you, before I mess with the E unit, I'm going to show you how I could change, or how I could clean. Now you guys may not have this at, you don't have this at home, but this is nothing more than material, cotton. These were strips that my father used to use to tie his tracheotomy around his neck. He had, for 4 years, he had to breathe through a tube in his neck, hooked up to oxygen. So he used to tie, you had a big plate that held the tube. Anyway, he used to use these to tie them around his neck. And when he passed away, I had tons of these things. So in keeping with my dad, because he was a trained guy too, I always feel like he's helping me every time I use one of these. So that's just my thing. But you could make them out of, you know, an old t-shirt or whatever. And what I do with this is, normally I take this rod off, and it's a lot easier. Yeah, I may as well do it. What the heck? What the heck? We'll get some tools here. Alright. Whenever I mess with these special nuts and bolts and stuff, I don't like to use pliers or anything that's going to slip or not fit perfectly. Sometimes, I have this from my airplane days, this is a little wrench. Sometimes they fit perfectly and sometimes they don't fit at all. This one doesn't fit at all. Okay. So, we're going to use, no, where is it? Where is it? No. Jeez. I'm guessing. Here we go. Right, 1/4 inch, of course. So, we hold the wheel and we unscrew. Now again, front of the motor, because we turned it around now after we did the brushes, front is facing to the right. The other thing I make note of, in the old days when I wasn't too good at this, I used to draw a picture right here on the, probably some still, might be some pictures around still, but anyway, I used to draw a picture of how these rods were on. Because if you notice things about these rods, the rod itself has little nibs that stick up on them. And I'll show you that close up in a second. And they also have a little dimple in it right here, just behind the wheel, the middle wheel. So I like to put them back, and hopefully they weren't on wrong. This one was on correctly. But I put them back the same side, the same way. So I'm putting these screws and this rod in the right hand side of my tray, because remember this was the front of my tray to the right hand. Okay, so this is the right side of running gear. So those went in there. Now I just took this off. You have to note, well, I like to do it this way. I think it's the best way to do it anyway, but you should note which way this rod was in. Now this rod happened to be just like that, with this little dimple. It has like a little dimple here, and if you notice, it sticks out on this side, and on this side it's an indent. That makes a difference. Okay, so the other thing is these little nibs here on the top. If you can see that. See, it has little. Let me show you with this. There's little nibs up here on the top. Each one, they were up. So, dimple facing out, these little nibs facing the sky when you put it back on. Alright, so it would go back on like that. Boom. I'm good. But we're going to clean that up before we put it back on. I'm glad we took it off. We'll put that right in the right hand side of the tray. Now it leaves us simple access around the wheels. See? We can get around those wheels nicely. But if we did it with a dry piece of cloth, we wouldn't get very far. So what we do is, I take my alcohol. The little cap still has alcohol in it. I normally have gloves on when I do this, but being lazy today, I didn't put them on. So I just take it and make like a U shape. I dip it in the cap. It wicks up a bunch of alcohol. So now this piece, for that length, has alcohol all over it. I take it, wrap it around the wheel, and I just clean the axle and the back of the wheel and all that stuff very easily. And I move this around so that the wheel gets, I move it around to the right, to the left, so that the curved part, the hairpin part, is actually wiping the entire circumference of the axle and the bearing. So we go all the way around, nice. We take it out. Now this one is pretty clean, really. This is very clean compared to what you could see. The part that was rubbing against the axle and stuff, it's clean. I'm very happy that this thing is clean. I'm not so happy that the wheel is chipped, but I don't think it's going to affect. Us running. So since that's not too clean, I'm going to turn it around and use the other edge. This top edge now is where most of the grease is from that other axle. So I'm going to use the bottom part. Put a little bit more alcohol. Get around the blind wheel, the center wheel. Okay, and we'll do the same thing. And you don't have to go nuts. Well, it all depends on how dirty it is. But and there you go. So now we have we've cleaned two wheels. It's not bad. So we're going to move on with this. We're not going to use the same grease. So we're going to go and do the next little section of our little cleaning rag here. And we're going to go under the wheel. Okay, underneath. And that's why I like to use these flat things, because they will flatten out even if you have to crunch them to get them in there. Once you get them in there, they flatten out nice. So the cloth does. And again, cleaning the back of the wheel, including right up to the axle and the bearing, the outside of the bearing, that is. Okay. Careful not to pull too hard, because you just get it stuck in there. And voila, that was the dirtiest one. I would have to say that was more dirty than the others. And we did the three wheels. So looking at them, I normally would have my light on my head, but I don't. But they look pretty, yeah, I could see the brass nice and clean rather than black. Okay, now what we're going to do is going to do the other side. Same exact thing. The way this thing is mounted is the same thing. The little nib is sticking out. The bump is sticking out on this rod. It's behind, obviously it's behind the back wheel. We have our frame front to the right side. We take off the two bolts. Okay, I'm going to put them on the left side of the tray because this is the left side of the engine. And take this off. And we'll put this in there. And now we'll turn this around to us. Now, here's the challenge, ladies and gentlemen. This is the challenge. These are geared wheels, so you can't just wrap them around and expect them to be all the way around 360 degrees around the axle and the bearing. Not gonna happen. Now, I have done it in the past where I've forced it between the front